this is probably actually a good place to segue to the other piece we wanted to get from you guys, which is this really massive emerging gender gap among Gen Z. David Hogg actually tweeted something about this that we found interesting and can put up on the screen about how Democrats are struggling with young men. Go ahead and put D1 up, guys, on the screen so we can read from this. There it is. I hope I'm wrong, but if we lose in November, I think the main reason why will be the number of young men of all races that are no longer Democrats. There's been a taboo about talking about this because we understandably are hesitant to make men a main point of conversation, given we have been for thousands of years, but we have a real problem to deal with. At this point, with 60 days to go, there isn't much we can do to recover it other than turning out more young women and trying to slow the departure of young men. I think a lot of this is caused by COVID, the epidemic of male loneliness in this country, the ensuing commodification through social media of misogyny. Long-term, we've got a lot of work to do to provide positive examples of what actual masculinity looks like that is not defined by putting down women or other people, but by lifting others up and being a true leader. Parker, what's your reaction? Is that your experience among the young gentlemen that you know?
I've met David. He's an interesting guy, and I will say I appreciate him coming out and speaking out. And I think more young men and young women should speak out. I know a lot of young men that are Democrats that are very much involved for different reasons. I got involved because I lost my dad at a young age, and I understood the impact of good governance. I have a public policy degree because I knew I wanted to make a difference. But I have friends that are involved for all different reasons. And I know so many young men that have stood up, stepped up, and really trying to make a difference in their communities, whether that's on the city council or the county commission. You know, I've got a best friend who's a teacher named Bryce Berry. He's 23 years old. He's running for state house in Georgia, and he's going to win. There's no way he doesn't win. And I really think that young men can set an example. And, you know, I'm from Atlanta. I know so many amazing men that show me what good masculinity looks like, that show me what giving back to your community looks like. And I'll end on the point that I think a good man looks like Tim Walz, somebody who cares, somebody who you can trust, somebody if you had a flat tire, they'd pull over to the side of the road and help you change it. And I think that's more of what our party should be elevating. And I think the choice of Tim Walz demonstrates that. And I do think young men are going to surprise a lot of people, and may hopefully surprise David in November, because I think we're going to turn out and show out. And at least in Georgia, I know young men are very much aware of what is at stake and how women's rights have been taken away.
I think that's possible, but there's a lot of data that shows otherwise. Let's put this D2, please, up on the screen. This is originally, guys, what we were all going to talk about the last time that we wanted to see you. If you look at the Gen Z gender gap here for younger men, specifically 18 to 29, you have men both overall, but also between 18 to 29 who are supporting Trump and almost over a plus 10 margin, while you have women, younger women specifically, almost at a plus 18 margin there for Democrats, specifically for Kamala Harris. The gender gap actually gets even bigger whenever you look at 30 to 44, so my fellow millennials. But Evita, why do you think then it is that Democrats are winning so much with younger women, the Taylor Swift demographic, I guess, but that Donald Trump is doing so well with younger men?
Well, let me just start by saying that I don't think Tim Walz is a masculine man. I don't think any young men are looking to him as a role model. This is the guy that put tampons in the boys' bathroom. And he was also charged with making a city safe, right? It's the state of Minnesota, and he let it burn to the ground during BLM rioting. So that's something to take note of. But I want to get to like the real heart of this. I think that third wave feminism has really disrupted the natural order between men and women. And I think men feel really lost in modern society. This idea that the future is female, it's turned out to be female domination over the masculine. And we're experiencing this mass feminization of society, encouraging men to be more effeminate, telling them to cry more, don't be too masculine, don't be too assertive, don't sit a certain way, don't have male-only spaces. And they're even being told that their very nature, right, masculinity is toxic. And you have the system itself set up against them with scholarships and college admissions being rigged against men, particularly white men. And you're seeing men just give up. You have male suicide, depression, anxiety. It's through the roof. Men make up 80% of suicides in America. And a lot of guys are just saying, we need to return to normalcy. We need to return to order. And that's why I think the phrase "Make America Great Again," whether you think it's dumb or not, it has a real effect with men who feel like the culture does not respect them and that their unique contributions to society as men are not respected either. We need to return to the past and the normalcy of times before.
Go ahead, Parker. What do you think?
I don't think Make America Great Again is dumb. I think it's dangerous. I think a lot of this idea of what Trump is pushing as masculinity is actually toxic. I've never had somebody tell me that, me playing basketball or hanging out with my friends at a bar is too masculine. But, I truly think the ideals that Trump is pushing for what masculinity is more about hating women. You look at him on all these right-wing podcasts, they are misogynist, they're divisive. And honestly, I do think Tim Walz is a masculine man. He's a state championship winning football coach. And, I look up to him. And I see a lot of other good men in my life where, it's not bad to be loving and caring and joyful. And I think to be masculine is, to be strong and tough, but to also be a person. And the ideal of what Trump and the right and people like Aiden Ross are pushing for men to be is in fact toxic. And yes, our politics is so divided and it's really frustrating. And there is an epidemic among young men. I see it. We all see it. I'm not going to pretend that the gender divide does not exist in politics. It is stronger, just about the strongest divide we have in American politics. And it is more stark among young men because of COVID, because people are disconnected. And young men are going to college at way lesser rates. Anyone that watches this show knows that there is a crisis among young men. But I think them watching these far-right podcasts only isolates them more. I was watching the PBS NewsHour last night, and they had a former longtime Breitbart contributor on there. And she was talking about how much she regretted being a part of the far-right ecosystem and how it just encouraged people to get more and more far to the right, to push more and more dangerous rhetoric to get more attention, to boost each other's networks. And I think what Trump is doing is appealing to this problem among young men, this insecurity. He is using it and taking advantage of young men and trying to lean on their fears and their insecurities to say, hey, we aren't heard, so we have to go back and make America great again. Some men see things as they are and ask why. I want to go back. I want to dream of things as they could be. And I don't know how you can look at Tim Walz and think that's not what a good man looks like. I mean, you don't have to be, the strongest guy in the world, the meanest, toughest guy. I think masculinity is being a good dad, a good neighbor, a good coach. I mean, I wouldn't trust Donald Trump or J.D. Vance.
Put yourself out of the Tim Walz discussion, though. And, you even have liberals who are talking about this. Let's put D3, please, up on the screen. Hassan actually put this out. I think he's absolutely correct. Every young male interest online, from gaming, fitness to culture and self-help, is dominated by right-wing, red-pilled manosphere commentary. He says they prey on the anxieties and insecurities of vulnerable young men. Take his last sentence out of there, and I think empirically he is correct. And I could say that from firsthand experience. So, Evita, I mean, do you think that is a positive development? We've previously had people like Allie Beth Stuckey here on the show to kind of speak out against Andrew Tate's, influence amongst younger red-pilled, men. So how do you see that dynamic, specifically as a young woman on the right?
Yeah, Andrew Tate is a really interesting topic. I think as a conservative, as a Christian, the best role models for young men are their fathers, and I think also their Father in heaven. I think religion is something that's really lacking right now. But men have had to go to these surrogate fathers, right? The Andrew Tates of the world, even a Jordan Peterson, they're imperfect, right? They can never be perfect. But I also think that it's a net positive on society to have men start to take back some agency instead of just playing video games and watching porn and becoming incels. Like, I think that there is a real spiritual and emotional epidemic happening among young men, and to have them be assertive, embrace their masculinity, even if it's through an imperfect avenue like Andrew Tate, is a net positive on society. And I'll also say, the figures that the left is elevating to young men are just objectively not positive. I mean, we talked about Tim Walz. Also, I mentioned Doug Emhoff, right? They want him to be some sort of masculine figure in this election cycle. And this guy impregnated his kid's nanny. Right. And he can't control his sexual appetites. That's not masculine.
Avita,
that's not a winning message.
I have to cut you off there, because it's not like Donald Trump has had the most, by the book Christian family life.
Oh, no.
Is he a good positive role model for young men?
No, I agree with that. I mean, that's why I said this. These are imperfect avenues, but there's specifically been a push to have Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz be the new masculine figures on the left,
also,
and that's what I'm speaking to.
Obviously, a big push to make Donald Trump the sort of epitome of the masculine ideal. But I also want to flip the script with you, Avita, because if we can put the numbers back on the screen, D2, it's the gender gap goes both ways, right? So you have young men who favor Trump by, in this polling, somewhere around plus 10. Young women favoring Kamala Harris by almost 40 points. So what is your analysis as a Republican woman of why so many young women are so turned off from the Republican Party and some of the rhetoric and ideology and positioning coming from there?
Well, I can tell you why I think that they're attracted to the Democratic Party. I mean, I think that the abortion issue is, and abortion being the women's issue of our time, has been really animating for a lot of young women. I personally don't agree with it, but I think the left has done a really effective job of making women feel like this is a right of theirs, and that it is being taken away by Republicans. I think they've done a really effective job messaging that way. But what I will also say is that I know a lot. I mean, I went to college. I graduated not that long ago, and the left-wing lifestyle has been really damaging on young women. I think a lot of women think that they want a Doug Emhoff to marry or be with, and the reality is that they don't. I think young women actually are attracted to masculine men. I think that this idea that they're going to be a boss babe and fill in this climb the corporate ladder. I think a lot of these things actually have left women deeply unhappy. The most unhappy demographic in America is single women. The most mentally ill demographic in America is liberal women. That means something. And so I think focusing on your love life, I think embracing tradition is the answer for a lot of young women who are also feeling disillusioned with life. It's not just young men. But unfortunately, they continue to vote for people who are promoting an ideology that is making people deeply unhappy.
Parker, last thought to you.
Well, I will say they are not perfect figures. These false dads that as the way you described it, that the right has, people like Andrew Tate and Donald Trump being a model for masculinity. I think, again, the gender divide in politics is a lot because the right is exploiting young men. And I think young women are scared of people like Andrew Tate because he's a sexual predator. And when we are elevating people like that, people like Aiden Ross who say racist and misogynist things on stream, when Donald Trump is giving them a platform, appealing to them, pandering to those voters, it's disgusting. And he's taking advantage of the insecurities of young men. He's telling them that they aren't masculine enough. These right-wing figures, these bloggers, they're manipulating people to, say that there is this crazy, masculinity issue. And when the truth is, y'all are obsessed with Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz being the ideal man. They're not who I look to for masculinity in my life. I'm not spending all day thinking about masculinity. I think I'm more thinking about how to do a good job and how to get things done. I just be a man.
Oh, no.
No, he was
in a divide.
Oh, there we go. You cut off for a second.
Cut off for a brief moment.
But hey, both of you guys, I really appreciate.
Yeah,
I really appreciate having both of you today and enjoyed the conversation a lot. So I hope we can do it again. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, guys. We'll have links to Evita's show in the bio and to Parker's. Parker, what do you prefer? Instagram? Should we put that
Instagram.
In there? All right, let's do that.
TikTok, yeah.
All right.
Hey, sorry, y'all. I really appreciate you having me. And Evita, thank you. It was really nice to talk to you. I thought this was a good conversation.
I enjoyed it.
We
I'm sure
enjoyed it
everybody
as
will
well.
as
Talk to you too, Parker.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Always a pleasure.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.